G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. Today I'm thrilled bringing on one of my good mates, awesome clients and all-around wonderful human beings, John Hollenberg. For those that don't know John, he runs a thriving online digital marketing agency called 5x5. We're going to have a chat to John about his property journey, about his personal journey, but also a little bit more about how he's transitioned from business owner to now building assets as well. John, I also want to say thank you very much for sharing your journey. And let's talk about how you run a thriving team. Thriving teams then translate itself into assets. And when we talk assets, we're talking about property and what you've done to kind of focus your ambitions around property, your portfolio growth, investing, and then also what you've done with your business as well. So we'll touch on that in a second to give people a flavor of what's to come. So before we kick off, John, a little bit about the 3 Ps, a little bit about yourself personally, your professional story, and then we'll jump into your property ambitions and story as well.
Yeah, sure. So personally, I'm sitting here at the sunny Gold Coast here in Burleigh Heads. Married for coming up 15 years this year. We've got 2 kids. And I guess I was actually, in preparing for this, I was reflecting on this, and it's like, Aaron's interviewing me, but like I'm literally just the 50% shareholder in this, and my wife's just been a massive part of the journey as well. And we're going to sort of dig into a little bit of the detail here, but without her input and ambition, like I just don't think we'd be where we are today without that. So I know your wife there, Aaron. We've got good, strong women in our lives, and that's what holds us accountable and keeps us on track and all that sort of stuff. So
one of the biggest life decisions, isn't it, who you marry, and ultimately you see that the on track versus off track potentially with the right partner, isn't it?
Yeah, and we off the back of her ambition, like we pushed hard. I'm probably a little bit more conservative, so the fact that probably wouldn't have made the same decisions that have actually turned out like pretty bloody awesome. So, so that's the personal side of thing. A little insight there. Professionally, I'm a business owner, as you said. 18 plus years of doing this. So I own a digital agency. So we're based here at the Gold Coast. We build great looking, high performing digital solutions. So do everything from the digital strategy, the branding, all the visuals. We'll write your content, we'll build your website. And then really it's like a performance driven approach. So it's all about getting clients return on their investment. The way that we do that, we drive traffic through search engine optimization. We run paid ads as well, and then we provide all the ongoing support and upkeep and all that sort of stuff. So as I said, performance driven approach. It's about getting a many times return on investment. We're a team of 55 plus. Work with some amazing clients such as Porsche, Jeep, City of Gold Coast, hundreds of other clients. That's a little bit of a snapshot of the business. And then property wise, I've been involved in property basically for the last 20 years. But I really didn't probably start investing until 2016. I was sort of going back through the timelines. I was like, hang on a sec, like that's actually not that long. But always owned. Like when I first moved to the Gold Coast, like bought my little 2-bedroom bachelor pad there at the Burleigh Headland, and that was so awesome. And then consistently I was able to just keep upgrading through these different sort of life milestones. We got married, we had kids. All right, we need more space. Bought a house in Burleigh Waters, that had some capital growth, kept chipping away at the mortgage there. That grew, we wanted a pool. So we moved out to Bonogan, which is an acreage suburb here in the Gold Coast hinterland. So current snapshot, we've got 3 commercial properties, 3 residential properties. Over the last 7 years, pushed pretty hard, basically buying a property every single year.
Yeah.
Total portfolio value is over 8 figures, and LVR is looking pretty good as well, around that sort of 35%.
Yeah, it's incredible what you've done, mate. I want to say well done. And I think what you said, you feel like, it's only very recent. It's also a reflection on where you put your time and energy. I think getting the business up to a certain level, then it has I guess, ticked over to now we've got the business at the level where it's humming. Now we can focus a little bit on our personal asset building as well, right? You got to have the means and the ability to, and I think the risk appetite to then pull the trigger on some of these property ambitions as well.
Yeah, it's a total confidence game. But like if you don't start, you never you never learn or you never take any steps forward either. So like even just getting my first apartment, like that was a struggle because I was literally like 1 year into my business, had no financials, right? I was actually making some all right money, like 6-figure plus income. This is 20 plus years ago. And, but no banks had touched me. Like no one would go near me because I didn't have my 2 years of tax returns, right? So I worked with a broker back then, this is before I knew you, and he managed to get this obscure lender. I don't even remember what the lender was, but this is back when you could sign a low doc loan, and literally like the loan agreement was this A4 sheet of paper saying you're on the hook and you'll pay back the money. I was like, all right, like I felt pretty confident I can do that. And it was a pretty high percentage there. So this is, what was it, 2006. And I remember the rate was almost like 12, 13% or something like that. But I knew that if I could get just through that 12 months and just like try and smash as much of the mortgage as I could, then I could go and refinance because I'd have a tax return, I'd have more equity, and I'd be able to then go and, refinance it. I think it was like 7 or 8% back then. So that's how we got started.
This is it. And so I love when people take action, make some decisions, the market rewards that. Imagine if you delayed that, for example, waited for the 2 years tax return and kind of had that persistence to go and find someone that would give you the right answer, get you to a yes. If you let that just chip away over time, that you wouldn't have made that. You wouldn't have been in that property.
It's never a good time. But it's just like what action, what radical action you can try and take, what lateral approach you can try and take. And I think at that time, I was lucky enough to get like, I don't know, 10, 15 grand from my dad as well. And, paid him back in a couple of months or 6 months, and then was still able just to make it all work. And then from that, we were able to buy, like a $600,000 home in Burling Waters. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing from there.
Yeah, no regrets, what I'm hearing. But I think it's one of the other big things that I think, not necessarily property related, but more for yourself, is the impact that I've seen that health, and health is wealth. I keep saying that to everyone. What health has done for your lifestyle, and also, I guess, family being a priority. Like you've got a fairly good, I won't say balance, but you've got a fairly good focus on what your key priorities are. How do you maintain that? How do you keep those a discipline and rigor for yourself as well?
Yeah, so got like some fairly, I'm joking about it, but like I'm a bit of ADHD going on here, Aaron, in terms of like, probably pretty similar to you. Can't sit still for extended periods of time. So on a daily basis, I got to get my wriggles out. And, I just happen to like sit at a desk and have sat at a desk for a long period of time. So that's where the training came into play. So yeah, I basically, train most days. I've got a PT in my life as well. And like life is busy. There's a lot going on. We've got a good sized team. The business, demands a lot from me. And we're trying to grow and really scale this thing as well. So putting a lot of energy back into the business. But like the non-negotiable on that is my 2 or 3 PT sessions every single week, where it's literally like locked in 10 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday. And I will show up to that and we'll like schedule meetings around this, and like they're the non-negotiables. And I know if I do that, then it gets me in the state. I show up as the best version of myself. I feel good about myself. Everything just sort of flows from there. So,
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's important.
Love your philosophy. So take me through. Some people may say, look, John, you've got a thriving business. Why wouldn't you double down and set a business instead of moving into property, for example? At what point was there that inflection point where you go, look, I can keep focusing on my business and get X results, or I can, inverted quotes, diversify and build a property portfolio at the same time? Like, take me through that penny drop for you.
Yeah, like I think, and you and I, we've got similar sort of, mentors and coaches in our life where really the mindset here, and it's probably hard to relate. If you're not a business owner, it might be a little bit hard to relate to this, but ultimately, like, as a business owner, my business is what provides cash flow. And then ultimately I'm running 2 businesses here. I've got my primary business that, puts dollars in the bank account. And then I've got this wealth creation business where this is my own sort of personal investing. I just happen to really love property. And that's really like how we've been reinvesting, from a wealth creation perspective. And like what we've been then able to do, because you're a business owner, you've got this really nice symbiotic relationship with multiple entities that you just happen to control. And they support each other, they feed each other. You know, if weird things happen, like a pandemic hits, you've got flexibility in your life to be able to do this sort of stuff. So that's sort of the mindset that we're in. The cool thing, like now at this point, is like, regardless of what happens from a business perspective, I know we got some good solid backstops in place as well, in the fact that, you know, everything could come crashing down, the world could come crashing down, but you know, we know that there's some backstops there, and we're not going to be out in the street, and we don't have to start all over again as well. So it just helps you sleep at night. It gives a level of certainty, and it can also then, you know, fuel reinvestment in the business and all that sort of stuff. So it works really nicely.
Yeah, it helps when you're property backed. When I was writing down some notes the other day, I thought, hey, what you've got is bricks and clicks, because you got clicks, which is your digital business, and you got bricks, which is your property business, which is a way to sum up what you're doing at the moment.
New slogan.
Yeah, great, great. So for me, what issues have you encountered along your journey? And I know no journey is smooth, whether it's owning your business or building a property portfolio. So if you look back and reflect, what's some of the headwinds that you faced or hurdles where you look, like the first property that you bought, going, no one's going to say yes to a 1 year self-employed individual, but someone will. We've got to keep finding them. What's some of the other barriers that you've overcome over time?
Well, like, I'm going to answer that in a bit of a roundabout way. So I'm going to park that question, Aaron, if that's all right, because what might be helpful is just to understand that symbiotic relationship that I was talking about between like the cash flow business and the wealth creation business. So when I said we really didn't start investing until like 2016, I spoke about my wife at the start. So she also, so we had kids. They, you know, I think our youngest was age 2 or 3, and she's sort of like, oh, you know, I want to get back in the workforce. I want to do something for myself. And she went, long story short, started a day spa, right? Yeah. Had this great little operation working in a little, you know, corner somewhere. She's like, no, I really want to like invest in this. And I just happened to, I had the business as well. So I'm like, oh, well, let's combine our efforts. How can we do this together? So started looking at commercial properties, actually found this old funeral home in Mudgeerbar, which is also Gold Coast hinterland. Just happened to be commercially zoned, so mixed zoning there, on this just like amazingly busy roundabout. Basically, anyone knows Mudgeerbar, there's like 2 ways in, right? And literally there's like 20,000 plus cars that drive past this thing. It was a dump. It was like overgrown. It was run down, but had really good bones. And this is what I was talking about before with Louisa, and the fact that I was like, no way, like we cannot do this. And she's like, no, I reckon we can do it. We can do it. And like she pushed hard for it. I was like, you know, some sleepless nights in there thinking, how the heck are we going to do this? Because it's beautiful old Queenslander, but just needed so much work. It had like a pool in the backyard that was full of cane toads. So anyway, long story short, we bought it. I moved my digital business in upstairs. She did like a full fit out downstairs, built this just amazing day spa experience. And ultimately we instilled ourselves as landlords and tenants. So that was ultimately like how we got our foot in the door from a commercial perspective. So then 2 years on, Louisa's business was growing really well. I got politely asked to vacate the premises upstairs because she wanted some more space, Aaron. So it's like, all right, let's use this as an opportunity to literally like just go and do it again. So we went and bought a factory here in Burleigh Heads, and same deal. It was this bit of a dump. It was just like this shell. We actually did this as we set up a self-managed super fund. So you asked about hurdles. Buying property in a self-managed super fund is a test of patience. So I remember I was reflecting on that. I was like, yeah, that was a lot of work, like setting up self-managed super fund, getting a bare trust, the lending in that. Even then it was a lot easier back then, 2018. Like the rigor now is even harder. All the compliance, getting a statement of advice from like financial planners, and just all the hoops you got to jump through. But we had this money sitting in super. It's like, why shouldn't we be leveraging that? So, same deal. We went and did it again. So I put my business here, which is, you can sort of see on that backdrop. That's the business where I'm coming to you from.
Beautiful fit out that you've done. There.
Yeah. So that's ultimately how we got our foot in the door from a commercial perspective. And then we've bought another factory since then in the same complex. And the reason we did that was to, future-proof the business expansion, because we kept adding more bodies, and COVID was, a big period of growth for us in the business. And it was like, all right, well, we got some money sitting there in super. Let's go and do it again. And so essentially, landlord tenant, and the tricky bit is just doing the compliance, doing the setup, all that. And I think a lot of people just aren't willing to maybe do the work there, or don't even know it's possible potentially. So yeah.
I guess, knowing that it's possible comes from people around you either doing it themselves and you go, hey, if they can do it, I can do it, or the right team of professionals where you go, hey, we can do that as well. Right. So drawing on that level of experience, take me through your team. So I'm going to say that a lot of self-employed or business owners going, my goal is to minimize my tax, for example. Therefore, it inadvertently shoots them in the foot where they can't borrow as much, but they've paid less tax. Whereas I know you're happy to pay the tax because it's almost like a success fee, but then you're going, hey, look, it gives me so much more. It enables me to do much more as well in terms of property investing as well. So how have you structured your team around you? Have you found the right team? And I don't want to say this because it's a loaded question, because Bernadette does some work for you guys, but take that aside, how have you go about finding, securing them and getting the best possible team around you?
Yeah, I sort of touched on it before around like having a financial planner in your life. We're not actively working with a financial planner at the moment, but that was a real foundational piece. Like I think when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, it was like, especially when we got married, it's like getting a budget in place and getting on the same page with your wife around money and the systems and rules on how we're going to spend that money. Like that was an independent third party that basically sort of guided us through that. And then that set the foundations and the wheels in motion to start talking about, proactive investment and, the businesses were earning good money. How can we go and leverage that? So I think there's a definite place for financial planners there. I think the reality is though, like no one cares about your money more than you. So you have to be a very active participant in that and just, go out and research and follow people and listen to podcasts and do your own research, right? All the usual suspects, I think like big one, accountant. So knowing, having a very strategic accountant, not a reactive accountant. Where you don't want to go get the end of the financial year and you put on all your stuff and you're like, you've got this big tax bill because there hasn't been a proactive discussion around that or whatever. So I think that's a really big piece of that. Good broker. So we've been working with. So we bought and sold a bunch of properties over the years, and then I was really. At the very early stages, Aaron, this is going back like 15 years ago. I was like, I'll never use a broker again. Like they're a pain in the ass, not adding a lot of value into the equation. But then I guess we went through working with, the big four, and then that was painful. And then it's like, so then like swinging back to having just amazing broker in your life. Because we got like debt all over the place, right? Ultimately, they're the advocates to go out there and find the best deal for you and just the best solution for where you're at, depending on lending structure and cash flow and all that. So like that is the broker's superpower. And that's totally like the value that you guys have been able to bring to the table and also just the experience, where your team will go and give lateral solutions to problems and all that sort of stuff. So there's it's awesome. Insurance brokers, we did 2 significant shop fits with the properties as well. So that's probably like another part of that where when you're the tenant and you're the landlord, like ultimately you as a tenant, like, you need to be able to fit out the property. There's very strict rules around this and you need to be very rigid in terms of how it's all structured, but ultimately you as a tenant can improve the capital value of the property. You just happen to own that as well. So We use like project managers in terms of like, we're both busy running our business, having just awesome people to be able to like fit it out, deal with builders, do all that sort of stuff. I think they're important people to have in your lives. Quantity surveyors, obviously the depreciation, the taxation side of things. There are a few of the people that come to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And you haven't been afraid to kind of outsource, delegate where you need to as well. I think it's probably a big thing for you going, you don't know what you don't know. Therefore, I've got to engage the right team and the professionals.
Exactly.
Because you see that within your team, right? You're trying to build specialists in your team to work with clients. It's like, well, I need the same thing in my own life as well.
Yep.
Perfect. Anything that you do differently, better when you reflect on your journey as well? I know that obviously fitting out a commercial site takes some effort, takes some time as well. Anything that upon reflection you go, hey, look, if I had my time again, I'd maybe do this or choose a different path perhaps?
Buy more property.
I like that.
Go harder.
I like that, yeah. So if you reflect on that, what stopped you? Because if you're saying that now and you go, well, I probably had the ability to put the foot on the accelerator.
Well, and that's it, mate. So, you know, I know when prepping for this, and it's like, what one of your questions was the future plans. And I think there's a right time for everything, and like a good plan at the wrong time is still not a good plan. So, like as I said before, like for me, I'm putting just like so much energy back into the business. Like for me to like throw a commercial property transaction in the mix would probably just like explode my brains at the moment in terms of like getting JPs to certified trust deeds, and you know that like just would drive me bonkers. So like we're just into this bit of like consolidation phase at the moment, and that's where all my energy is going. So and that's okay, right? Like I'm good with that. Like we could probably totally go and buy a bunch more property if we wanted to and pushed really hard. We'll get to that. So, you know, it's just finding the right time for that. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. I think it does. Yeah, I think it's focus. I think the other part is people can do a lot. People can get, I think, distracted by, I'm going to go and buy more properties. The level of focus isn't there. For example, like you're saying, it's the right strategy but at the wrong time. And so if you lose focus of that, then a ball's going to drop off at some point.
Right? Totally. Yeah. Everything comes at a cost. So it's then, you know, and whether that's personally as well, it's like, you know, time away from your family, your wife or whatever. So just, there are a lot of things that I ponder at 2 a.m, Aaron.
I'm sure. Having kids, does that change your outlook as well? And I say this as, you know, as a parent, I'm like, all right, property's hard for me to buy now. I wonder what it's going to look like for my kids in the future. Have you thought about how do you set your kids up? I know that they're still not off the property buying age for any time soon, but you're going, we've got to put down roots so they can be well set up as well. What's your thought process there?
That is a super interesting question, and it's probably something that I just haven't put enough time and thought and effort into. Like my kids are 12 and 11 at the moment, so they're way off. And but you look at, you know, potential capital growth over the next 6 years, like until they're an adult, and then they, you know, probably going to have to go and work a bunch of years to do that. Like they've been involved in property their whole lives, and like they're getting dragged around to like mum and dad, you know, doing tenancy inspections and stuff like that. And like I feel like it's in their DNA, and whether they don't comment on it, but like it's all this just sort of osmosis that's hopefully soaking in, and that they will see the value in the physical assets and the importance of pushing hard to have those assets in their life. And I think probably the thing that will be the challenging part of that is like how much of a leg up do you give them? You know, like, you know, you're probably pretty similar, and I know a little bit about your journey. Like this is all off your own back, right? You've worked, you know, where you are today as a result of your tenacity and grit and all that sort of stuff, and no one gave you nothing, right? And I'm pretty, you know, I had an amazing upbringing, and you know, like I said, my dad gave me like 15 grand to buy my first apartment and all that sort of stuff. But how do you find that balance so that you're not giving them stuff on a silver platter, that they still have to go and do the hard work, put in the effort. These are all the things that I will be probably contemplating over the next few years, mate.
Isn't it? It's I feel like business has taught us a lot, but then you have family going, yeah, I want to give them every opportunity, but not to take it for granted. Like you're saying, I've built this up so they can be the beneficiaries of it, but not be spoiled.
That's it. It's like, why am I doing all this? Why am I flogging myself? Why am I working so hard? Like, what is it for? And then how will they benefit from that? And I like, how would I get that intel? It's probably like talking to other people a little bit further along and how they've solved that, and maybe with their 20-something-year-olds, how they've been able to, still give them a leg up, but then they've still got to do the work at the end of the day.
Yeah, spot on. We often say it, success leaves clues. So, I mean, I'll look to someone a few years ahead and business and personal life, and then looking ahead at someone else going, what have they done and how do I avoid making some of those brain damaging decisions, for example, and either keep me on track, and how do I learn from other people's errors and not pay that dumb tax on the way. So thanks very much. Yeah, that question that I had for you was, what does the future have in store? So if you kind of, I don't know, do it, you are an avid planner, so you're getting that crystal ball out and say,
yeah. Well, like I said, like we basically bought a property every year for the last 7 years. And it was a lot of work. It's pretty taxing. So I think this current phase at the moment, just like in a bit of a consolidation phase, and just like literally just, smashing some debt and all that sort of stuff. But I want to go again. You get the bug and you're like, all right, you know what, where are the opportunities? I love commercial. You've got to have a bit more, obviously, means behind you to do that. And then how that intertwines with future business and all that sort of stuff. Like where here in the factory, like we've grown significantly. Like, is there an opportunity to go and buy an office building or something like that? So these are probably the things that I'll be looking at in the next 12 months. But yeah, always, like, if I was to give anyone, like a key takeaway here, so ultimately, like, property is just a game of finance. You know that yourself, where it's literally it's just how can I play the game of finance to stack the odds in my favor, and then ultimately use debt as leverage to create the biggest lever you can. So yeah, like that's why I'm working on getting all my tax returns up to date and getting that pre-approval in place, Aaron, and making sure that when I pull the trigger on that, because I know that I'm going to get a big long list from Bernie saying I need all these bank statements and all these bits of information. I'm in a good position to do that. So that's just about having good financial hygiene in your life and compliance and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It all rolls into it's you know what you need to do, and it's like, well, you can choose to be organized, or you can choose to go, look, I'm not going to take care of my own backyard. Ultimately, the ones that are organized, the ones that have the right team around them, the right mindset, be able to pull the trigger with confidence, that creates the unfair advantage. And the unfair advantage is in property. Our businesses, yes, will give us cash flow. Property is something that it's security there, and someone else is paying that rent usually, and one less thing to worry about when that money's coming off that rental income as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and also opportunity. So, like we say, using that funeral home as an example, we just happen to have a pre-approval in place. Like, had we not, like, we probably couldn't have put the offer in, because we'd be waiting 6 to 8 weeks for pre-approval from a bank. We would have missed the opportunity. So that's where you've got to have all your ducks in a row. So it's like, bang, good to go. And then the universe presents this amazing opportunity, and we're on here.
Yeah. Again, only happens because you're organized, mate. I love that as a message to leave listeners with. John, I want to say thank you very much. I know it's we get clients, we ask clients to come on from time to time, and some don't want to divulge their inner workings of their portfolio, but I think it's generous when you say, look, yes, I want to come on and share my journey, because other people are going to get uplifted by that. Because if John Hollenberg can do it, and that's not dismissing what you've done, but if John can do it, why can't someone else do it out there as well, especially if they're self-employed? So I want to say thank you very much for sharing your journey.
Pleasure, mate. Yeah, awesome. And thanks for getting the word out there, and appreciate all you do. Awesome,
mate. So if you want to connect with John, his team, if you're self-employed, you want to find out more about his journey, check out his podcast with the audio and the video version. If you want to find out what 5x5 do, we'll include details to their website as well. I hope you found that helpful. If you have, leave us a review or tag a friend who you think may want to check out this episode. spread the word. The more people we can get out there, the more awesome guests like John we can have on here as well. So thanks very much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.